Okay, if you are watching this video, that means you have already drawn your rough draft, you've already transferred it to the final draft, and you are ready to start calculating the equations for the lines. This video is all about how to set up your work page so that it is organized, it's neat, it's easy to follow, and it is written and done in a way that will get you the best grade possible. So let's just really quickly review the line project expectations. This first portion here, you've already covered because you've already drawn your graph, right? So hopefully all these things have already been considered by you and they're done. The next major portion of this is the equations work and the actual equations that you're going to put into Desmos. Notice it's 50 points of your grade. So half the grade comes from this portion right here. So the things we're going to focus on right now in setting up your work page is making sure that you will have all the calculations shown for each line, that you will have both equations form listed, which might mean nothing to you at this point, but that's okay, we'll get there. You're eventually going to attach this work page to the back of your poster, okay? And we want to make sure your work is neatly organized. We're going to cover these 4 bullet points throughout this video as we set up our piece of paper pretty much for all of your equation work to be done, okay? So this is what your piece of paper will look like, just standard notebook paper. This is very similar to what we did with the pine tree example as a class. If you want to give your piece of paper a title, you can write work page or something like that. What's important is that you are labeling each line as you work. I would suggest you start with line 1, right? The more organized this paper is, the easier your life is going to be. It's also going to make it way easier for your teacher to help you. So starting with line 1, you're then going to write the given information. What I mean by that is you're going to calculate the slope just by counting. So let's say, I'm just making this up, it was 2/3 or something. Then you're going to provide a point or a y-intercept, right? That's how we write our equations. Either you have a point that you work with or you have a y-intercept. So let's say for line 1, you had a y-intercept, 0.5, okay? That's your given information. But let's say on the next line, line 2, you counted the slope and you got, oops, that's not slope, that's a point. You counted the slope and you got -4 or something. But this one you didn't have a y-intercept. You just have a random point on your graph that you know, and that would be, I don't know, 2, -3 or something, right? Your given information is going to look different depending on the line. Now, because of that, that means that your work is going to look different depending on the line. So for line 1 up here, I already have the y-intercept, so my equation can be written right off the bat. Y equals 2/3 x plus 5. Okay, no big deal. However, line 2, where I didn't have the y-intercept, my work is going to look different. I'm going to have to use point slope form because I didn't have the y-intercept. So I solve, distribute here, move my 3, so y ends up equaling -4x plus 5, okay? In both cases, I have slope-intercept shown, but the second example required more work because I didn't have the y-intercept. I want to see that on your work page. I want to be able to tell, oh, they know when it's appropriate to use point slope, and they know when they don't have to because they have the y-intercept. Okay, so this is just a sampling of what your line project work page is starting to look like. You are also going to need to show work for some lines that are hoys or boxes, right? But this work is way easier. So let's say line 3 is a horizontal line. Literally all you have to do is write the word hoy and then tell me the equation. Hopefully it's something like y equals 4, y equals -5, y equals 78, whatever it needs to be. Please don't make it 78. So there's your equation for a hoy or box. Very quick and short, no big deal. I could even do line 4 right underneath it. Let's pretend line 4 was a box. You could write the word box and then just write x equals 2, or whatever it needs to be. Okay? Your work page is going to look like one of these 4 lines over and over and over and over and over and over and over. Hoys, boxes, point slopes, and just slope intercepts over and over. Okay? Now, the other thing you want to make sure you're including is the domain and range and the standard form. Now, depending on when you're watching this video, you may or may not know what standard form is at all. Okay? Just know that it requires a little bit of work, a few lines, okay? And then eventually you will have, let's see, I think this would be the standard form for this one. Maybe not. No, this would be 2. I don't know. Don't worry about it. Not important. Oh, now I can't do it. This math teacher can't just leave a problem unworked. I multiply 3. So then I have 2x minus 3y equals negative 15. Oh, I was close. Negative 15. Okay, so just know that you're going to have another form listed, which is standard form. I will say, if you, because you're doing this and you don't know what standard form is at this time, if you want to later create a separate page with your standard form work, that's totally fine. But if you also just want to have one giant work page, then just make sure you leave enough space for a little bit of extra math within each line, okay? The other thing, as I mentioned, you want to have the domain or the range somewhere. It doesn't really matter where you put it, as long as it is, again, within the line 1, or line 2, or line 3, whatever, space. So maybe for this line, your domain was negative 3 to negative 1 or something, okay? But you really need all three of those components for each line, okay? You need the slope-intercept, you need the standard, and you're going to need the domain and range. You'll need all three of those for each line. So when you are setting up your work page, you may want to, I'll come back to that, you may want to just do this. Line 1, scroll down a little ways. Line 2, scroll down a little ways. Line 3, etc. Okay. Now, obviously, hoys and buxes are not going to take very much room at all. You're going to have something like hoy y equals negative 3. There is no standard form, so you don't have to worry about that. And then your domain negative 4 to 8 or whatever. Okay. Hoys and buxes don't take very much room whatsoever. So as you're working, those you don't need to spend quite as much space on. But again, if you want to go ahead and plan ahead, just write out your lines, giving yourself ample room in between each line for all the work that you're going to have to do. Okay, we might be killing a lot of trees, but we'll recycle. It'll be fine. Okay, I wanted to show you some examples of student work that I've had in the past. So here is a girl whose handwriting is like just insane. It's better than mine, but she's got a beautiful work page, right? You can see where her lines are numbered over here. You can see this was a VUX for her. You can see that this problem right here, she had to work out point slope form. She did put 2 points here. Y'all don't have to do that. You can just put 1 point. But honestly, if you just really want to, go for it. It doesn't matter to me. But you can see her point slope steps right here. Again, beautiful work that she had turned in. It was just lovely. Awesome blossom. Okay. Obviously, if your handwriting is not that beautiful, that's okay, because mine's not either. But the neatness is what mattered. If this girl had come up to me and said, hey, I need help on line 24, I guarantee you we'd find it in a matter of seconds because it was so organized. Here's another one. This person was trying to save a little bit more paper, so she had 2 columns. So she had line 1, line 2, line 3, and then eventually 4, 5, 6. And then the next column, she had line 7, line 8, line 9, and that's okay as well, as long as it is neat. It does not need to look exactly the same for everyone. It just needs to be neat enough for any teacher to be able to look and say, oh, well, flip to line 72. Let's work on line 72. Okay? The other thing I wanted to quickly show you is that this line project has a continual process of switching between working on your equations and typing in Desmos. Okay? So I would suggest that you do a few equations, like do 10 maybe. Then put those into Desmos, okay? Put those 10 in Desmos, and then go back to your equations. It is a continual cycle. If you do all 200 equations and then start putting them in Desmos and realize that they are all wrong, you're going to be so disappointed that you did all that work for 200 lines for nothing. So it's better to do a little bit of both at a time so that hopefully you learn as you go and get better and better and you don't make mistakes. So always switch back and forth between the two. Don't try to do all the equations and then all the Desmos. Okay? Alrighty. Hopefully this has helped you feel prepared in setting up your work page. Please let your teacher know if you have any questions or you're confused about any point of this process. We are here to help you and want to help you be successful on this project.